Imagine changing your whole reality with pen and paper, or even a wall, and what you really hope is crayon. If there's one aspect of practical magic I'm most known for, it's sigil magic. I have been using sigils for 25 years. I've been teaching them for 15. I originated the shoaling method of sigil activation, and this is my complete, ultimate, beginner-to-end sigil magic course that will get you from never having made one before to completely transforming your life with practical magic. Beginning in this video with Module 1, Foundations for Magical Practice, where I will show you how to get the attention of the spirit world the right way, how and why to set up a sacred container for the doing of magic in your life, and 3, some daily practices for improving the efficacy of magic and sigil magic in your life. Beginning with the first point, God does not bless a mess. There is a traditional European belief that the fairies will not bless an unclean house. And so you shouldn't go to sleep with dirty dishes in the sink and so on, or you will not receive the blessing of what is effectively the spirit world. Now, even if you don't believe in spirits, and you should, this is a powerfully true psychological statement of the importance of agency and coherence in your life, regardless of what's going on. Now, if you want to say to me, Gordon, I have doom scrolled my way to a sigil magic course on YouTube at 2 a.m. My life is not especially coherent. Well, I bring you twofold good news. The first is you can start anywhere when it comes to prioritizing coherence. And the second is you can start small. If you are going to embark on a magical campaign, the intervention of magic in your life should be a cohering force rather than a decohering force. And the only difference between them is the setting and frame in which you reach out for magic. And if you would like to know more, I have a whole video dedicated to God not blessing messes that I will link up below. But what does this do? What does prioritizing coherence and agency in any capacity in your life do? Well, firstly, it teaches the body and the parts of the self that have maybe forgotten it that you really do have agency in your life. A series of calamities and traumas can often make you forget that. The second thing is that clearing your habitat also clears your mind. And when it comes to magic, the most powerful results are often very subtle. They're often inspiration. They're often, oh, I should do that. Or, oh, I know that person. Inspire actually means to be inspirited. So the association is quite long-lived. And at the very least, even if you don't get like a result from cleaning your room, you will certainly get clarity on your goals. The human mind associates itself with its habitat. And so a messy apartment often reveals a messy mind. But the reverse is true. Cleaning your apartment can clear your mind. Mess also impedes energetic flow. There are whole systems like feng shui of placement of objects and the arrangement of physical reality to improve energetic flow. You don't need to master any of those skills to understand, oh yeah, messes impede energetic flow. If I'm seeking to bring new energy in my life, I need it to arrive in as clean a way as possible. And the other thing this whole practice does, starting small, starting anywhere, bringing coherence to a small aspect of your life, is it teaches you the get better mindset rather than the be good mindset. And the be good mindset plagues everything important, especially things like magic. People will invest in course after course and book after book after book and not really start because there's always one extra thing to learn. There's one more thing to learn to be good at it. The same attitude plagues a fitness journey. The same attitude plagues learning a new language. Anything like that. Give yourself the permission to get better rather than be good. So that's almost the elemental earth foundations of moving into a campaign of sigil magic, is to start anywhere, but start, get better rather than be good, and prioritize coherence and agency where you can, so that the arrival of magic is a cohering force in your life rather than decohering. I want you to think about what it is that makes the smallest act of sigil making scrawled on the back of a restaurant receipt the same as a grand parade through ancient Babylon on behalf of and in celebration of Marduk, with musicians and gold and banners and so on. I want you to think about the ways in which they are the same. There's something a friend of mine, friend of the show, Chris Knowles, said many years ago. Magic is about getting their attention. Now, who is they in this instance? The reality is, for sigil magic, it doesn't especially matter. You can competently argue that sigil magic works best with a sort of 20th century, it's all psychology, whatever that is, method. So we can leave the there to the side for sigil magic. But inarguably, magic is about getting their attention. Take that through the levels. Do you just mean your unconscious, which is the majority of your mental body, the majority of, and the wellspring of the desires you are seeking to bring into manifestation in the first place? Or do you think it's God? Or do you think those two things are identical, as famed New Thought pioneer Neville Goddard believed? Or they're specific, explicit spirits? Like I said, it doesn't matter. It certainly doesn't matter for this course. For this course, we just need to arrive at the, we need a getting their attention aspect to these foundations. And I'm going to recommend to you strongly a daily prayer practice. Now, if you're a premium member, we have a whole course on prayer. So you can, especially if you're a little bit rusty, like if it's been a while, we have that, as well as a complete list of, the prayers that you may want to use for grimoire work, daily planetary prayer, and so on. So if that sounds appealing to you, there's a link below and you are welcome to join. Even if you are a member, especially if you're not, I would encourage you, and this is a little controversial, but we're going with it. I would encourage you to go to your favorite LLM, ChatGPT, Claude, what have you, and have it create for you 7 daily planetary prayers in the style of the Picatrix, or 7 daily angelic prayers in the style of the Heptameron, or both. And I'm going to recommend this to everyone for a couple of reasons. The first is it removes the excuses. Oh, but I'm not a good writer. And actually, there's a third secret reason, which I'll tell you out of order, so I'll tell you that one now, which is I delight in the idea of the robots being trained on the good aspects of grimoire magic. Anyway, so 2, officially 2, that was a special 3 for you, is in the 1.5 decades that I have been teaching this, it has been my observation that people who are brand new to sigil magic are very reactive. They're in a state of fight or flight. I need this now. My life is a hectic mess. You may have noticed Module 1 is all about slowing you up. And I don't mean slowing you up to take longer to get to your goals. The plot twist is the slower you move, the faster you will arrive at the life that you want. So if I tell you and strongly recommend you move into not just a daily planetary prayer practice, but one that you are sovereign over, that's not slowing you up. That is accelerating your progress towards the life that you actually want. Now, daily prayers are the beginning of a getting their attention process. They're not the end. There is a bridging topic between daily planetary prayers and sacred containers that we need to talk about. And that is offerings, the other part of getting their attention, yeah? So what do you offer? And if you look at the 7 different planets, they have different affinities and so on. And you're welcome to do that. But this is the foundations of practical magic, or this is module 1 of the Sigil course. So you don't need to go out and buy various aloes and what have you. You can. You don't need to. There is a couple of things I'm going to suggest, and I've been suggesting these 2 for about 15 years now. Frankincense and Palo Santo are, especially frankincense, broad spectrum, broadly approved offerings. Palo Santo does double duty of clearing the energetics, but it's sacred wood, so it can be used as an opportunity to elevation in an offering context. So those are the 2. If you're like, please just tell me, this is module 1, just tell me to buy something. That's what I'm telling you. There is an unlock to offerings that is almost like that meme where where it's the middle of the bell curve where the idiots live. For very, very beginner people and very, very advanced people, I'm going to give you some advice from legendary shaman Martin Prechtel when it comes to offerings. And that is, what does what you love love? This is the unlock to offerings to brand new spirits, to offerings to mountains that you find yourself on. What does what you love love? And let that inner response be the inspiration, that word again, the inspiration to arranging offerings. What does what you love love will clear a lot of the concerns and frankly, often, like I said, 15 years, dumb questions. I need to do an offering to Venus. I only have chili powder and black pepper. Will that work? Well, are you going to mace a bitch? No, it won't. Think about what does what you love love? And then you can answer that question, especially as your Mercury and your Mars, as it interfaces with your imaginal, is going to be experienced differently to mine. So that's a universal unlock that's, like I said, beginners are allowed to use it, super advanced people are allowed to use it. And in the middle, once you've decided that magic is for you and you start investing in some grimoires and some Agrippa and so on, that's when you can, and by the way, it's fun, don't get me wrong, that's when you can start to hoard all the excellent, delicious supplies. So getting their attention is the process of, on your side of things, turning a friendly face to the unconscious, or the animist way of saying that is to have the cosmos become aware of you. And that's, by the way, why we use planetary prayers specifically, because it's a ready-made ceremony or a ready-made ceremonial sequence that calls upon you to attend upon the essence of Saturday and the essence of Monday. It's all the one stuff, right? And this is a ready-made, easy-to-follow sequence that allows you to become aware of the animate nature of other aspects of space-time and vice versa. So that's getting their attention, a daily planetary prayer and offering practice, which does rather beg the question of, okay, cool, but where do I do this? Which brings us neatly to sacred containers. So I use the term sacred container rather than altar. Now, you can have an altar, that's quite all right. But all altars are sacred containers. Not all sacred containers are altars. You may be in living conditions where an altar isn't feasible. And I don't mean because you have like a wicked stepmother or something, but because of space or politeness or fashion, whatever it happens to be. And people get hung up on that. Like, do I need an altar to do magic? No. Do I need a sacred container to do magic? Eventually, yes. So you might as well get to it. What does that look like? This actually neatly follows on from what does what you love love. Because you can find you can't find like magical altars in every culture in the world, but you will find sacred containers. So Catholic Latin America, you'll get the boveda, you'll get like ancestor altars above a hearth or so on. Kind of similar in even Islamic culture. But you will find arrangements that call the spirit to remember the sacred. That's a sacred container. You can have different versions of it. It frees you up, especially, I do a lot of traveling. It frees you up to have the idea of a sacred container travel with you so you don't, and I have done this and I don't recommend it, end up carrying all kinds of statues and candlesticks and whatever all over the world. When you step into what an altar is one representation of, it frees you up to explore what is right for you in your ever-changing context. Now, do you need one at all? Can you just scroll out some sigils and be done with it? Yeah. How much do you want your outcome? This is an interesting question, isn't it? So rather than yes, no, do, don't, rather than like imposing rules on it, I can throw that back to you and say, what if it improves the likelihood that you get what you want by 10%? Would you do it? How much do you want the outcome? That's the attitude that I want you to take to this question, this invitation to making room for the sacred in your life. No, you don't need it, as far as I can tell, technically. But it's the wrong question, isn't it? It's like, what if this made a 5-year difference to you achieving the career of your dreams? What if it shaved 5 years off the climb for not that much of an outlay or an effort? It's worth thinking about. Now, having said it can be anything, having said the sacred container doesn't need to be an altar and so on, there are some recommendations that I like that come from, I would argue, like the universal, like the worldwide layer of magic. So we're talking like 50 to 100,000 years ago. And it is directions and some form of the Most High, some form of like a creator in any form you choose to see it. That's about it. So it's almost like you have numbers. You could use numbers, that would be weird. A 1 and a left-right, so polarity, and then a 4. As a shamanic practitioner, I have a mesa, which I actually do take with me everywhere. And this has all of that contained within it with the use of sacred stones and little objects and so on. You don't need to do that. But when it comes to a sacred container, directions are sacred, polarity is sacred, the Most High is sacred. And when you step from getting their attention to participating in co-creation with the cosmos, whatever you want to call these things, these beings that stand at the quarters and God and so on, you are co-creating with them, and a sacred container invites you into that communion. Does this need to be the place where you activate your sigils? Now, this definitely not. You absolutely can, but it serves a different function. It serves the function of bringing you into that communion. So if you feel so inclined, and by the way, I've done all this, I've thrown sigils off the Hammersmith Bridge in London. If you are creating and activating and especially dispatching sigils, they don't need to be where your sacred container is. The sacred container is that foundational work. You must find that expression, how the sacred, how magic wants to come through you. You must find that. So I can give you an absolute baseline, and this will work. Light some candles, light some incense. You could say the Lord's Prayer. You could run a rosary. All good. When you deem that your sacred container is ready, one of the things you should do with it is a contract clearing. And this can be as simple as a statement such as, I clear, release, and nullify any contracts or agreements from this life or any other lifetime that impedes my practice of magic and no longer serves me in any way. So you can write that out and say that. A couple of deep breaths. Turn your attention inward. I clear, negate, or otherwise nullify any contracts or agreements from this lifetime or any other lifetimes that impedes the practice of magic and no longer serves me in any way. Because you'll be surprised, the further into it you get, particularly people who are drawn to this path, there's like witches' curses on family lines and all kinds of crazy stuff. I don't know what this means, and it's more about how the story lives in your unconscious rather than it being literally true. But I found intergalactic gun runners. I had like family agreements with them, with crazy stuff. And that's just how my unconscious showed this to me. And when it was cleared, my magic improved. So that's a way of inaugurating a sacred container. And that's the third of the 3 foundational pillars for any practical magic campaign. There's the God does not bless a mess. There's actually bringing coherence and agency into some form of your life. There's getting their attention, which is moving into a daily acknowledging of spirit in some way, shape, or form that is appropriate to magic. And then there is the attending to a sacred container. Then there is the literally making room in your life, in your now coherent life, for the sacred. What I'm going to leave you with as a kind of homework is noticing. Witchcraft author Lee Morgan refers to the sight as the noticing, and it's excellent. It's an excellent way of describing, because magic will arrive most often subtly. It will arrive as inspiration, literally to inspire, to inspirit, and synchronicity. And it's a luminous thread through reality. The great philosopher William James referred to something he called the library angel, which we can maybe update for the internet era. But it's that curious way that the right book or the right phrase or the right sigil course, the right message will show up just when you need it, when you're on a particular quest. And Jung once said that sometimes our angel uses other people to communicate with us. This is the noticing. As you start getting their attention, as their attention arrives, as the sacred arrives in your ever-cohering life, even before you've picked up a pencil and some paper to do some sigil magic, start to see that luminous thread. Start to notice where the sacred is speaking back to you. Because magic is asserting sovereignty over that communication, is finding your place in that conversation.